and welcome back to part 33 of Final Fantasy XII, where today we are now in the Great Crystal. And as you can see from the map, you're not going to be told where to go throughout here. You just get this sketch outline of the whole area, and that is all you have. And every single area in this crystal looks identical, which is why the second visit is a nightmare, because it's a maze where every room looks like this. If you attempt to proceed at the path behind you going up, it will lead you to a switch that you currently can't activate. That's because this switch opens a door to the right of where you started that will lead into the second half of the dungeon that is only optional. And you get treated to a couple bomb enemies that will arrive up here as well, if you decide to come here. Because the switch will not interact until you've become the Master's Chosen One, which that will become self-explanatory a little later on. It essentially means once you've done with this first visit, so what you need to be doing is actually heading dead ahead to the path that goes downward, because you're heading as deep into the crystal as possible. The entrance point is actually right in the middle of it, and so you can proceed either way. You can either proceed more downwards towards the bottom, or more upwards towards the top. Towards the top is where all the optional stuff is, towards the bottom is where all the plot stuff is. Which is why we can only go downward right now. Thankfully, the path downward further into the depths of the crystal is relatively linear. There are a couple points where it'll ask you to deter your path a little bit, but for the most part it's pretty self-explanatory and straightforward to solve. But if you are struggling, please follow what I am doing to a T, as I get hit with every single status condition in the game just there. If you're struggling at all, your best bet is to just follow the path that I am taking, because it is way too easy to get lost here. And you can pick up a Thief's Cap there, which is a third one, I believe, of the Thief Caps we've got now. Oh no, that's the Light Armor Thief's Cap, that's not the Thief's Accessory. So if you want to boost your chances with the Light Armor, you can through that. As you can see, every time you bring up the map, whether it's the left stick map or the main map, all you'll see is an orange circle like somewhere on the crystal. All that is telling you is how high up it or low down it you are. And it's not room by room that determines it. It's these waystones that determine it. The waystones, the way it indicates how much closer you're getting to the bottom or the top is that the closer you are to the bottom, the lower the number. So vice versa, when you approach the top, you'll be seeing 19 and 20. The waystone the waystone you approach says 7. When you warp to it, if you check the waystone behind you, it will stay 6, because those numbers link. And the next waystone you're looking for is 5, which will link to 4, and then 3, which will link to 2, and 1 that will link to the end. Also, you can get random, pretty decent loot drops on these enemies. Like, we just got a new weapon, the Morning Star. Not that I noticed straight away, because I was just too busy killing them, but we did just pick up a new weapon. The main thing for a lot of these areas is that you're flicking these switches, so then you can interact with a door that will open, or in some cases it will just open a door. On the second visit, every single switch will have multiple doors that it can open, which is just adds to the maze, and you have to pick which door it opens by interacting with it. Like, you interact with the switch, and then you have to go interact with the door it opens, which just becomes even more problematic as you go on, as you'll see. When we get to the second visit, I think a lot of you will struggle to believe me when I say I actually did it all without a walkthrough on my first playthrough. When I came back to doing it on this one, I glanced at a walkthrough. Well, I say glance at a walkthrough. I didn't follow a walkthrough. I had a fan-made map of the entire crystal, and used that as reference to find my way around. And so I will, like, it's easy enough to look up, but when I come to it, I have in detail listed instructions of exactly what paths you need to take to get to where you need to be, and I will be reading them loud and clear when we get to them as we go through, so you know, following along, not only how to get through. Oh, there, I noticed I got the Morning Star. Yep. So not only will I be showing you, but I'll be directly telling you not only how to get in, but also how to get out afterwards. Getting out is relatively easy because once you get to the very top, there is a shortcut teleporter you can activate that takes you pretty close to the start point. Not completely there, like you could still make the mistake of turning the wrong way from there, but if you follow me to AT, you will find your way not only in but back out easily. But there's that's the Waystone back, because that's Waystone 6, so that will take us back to 7, so that's back the way we came, which is why you see me ignore it. But we did flick this switch so we can get to it, as every single status condition in the game is thrown at us yet again. Eventually I wisen up to just putting a remedy on a Gambit for Ash, and just kind of putting it as ally any. It just takes me too long to wisen up to it, it's a problem. Oh, gold hairpin. The old hairpin is a Mystic 8, and Balthier can't equip it because his license points aren't high enough, so I'm like, god damn it. Ash can though, I suppose, which boosts her MP to 719. At this point I'm just checking to see if the Gaia hat is better for Balthier, and so I shouldn't equip it to Penelo. So back to the license board we go, which we haven't actually shown off in a while, because as I've mentioned before, a lot of them moving forward are only just cleaning up what's left. Like, it's not actually getting stuff important, so I didn't feel the need to show it off as much. Like, that's one of the last times I actually show you the license board in action until we max it out. Not the very last, because I'm actually not sure when the very last is. I'd have to go back over my footage, but pretty close to it. But now Balthier and Ash have had their MP slightly boosted, so their technique bar is not full. Once you're in the Great Crystal, there isn't actually any boss fights on your first visit, oddly enough. Like, you just got to proceed through it. You've done the test, so to speak. Like, this area is a test in itself because of the paths you need to take to find your way through, and the fact that everything looks the same. The only indicator you're getting further into it is that the backgrounds where you can see the shards of the crystal will get brighter the deeper you go, and will get dimmer the higher you go on your second visit. So you know you're getting closer to the top the darker it gets, or it goes closer to the bottom the lighter it gets. I do not like the Oses and the fact that they just always constantly spam their attempts to get status conditions on you. Oh, a set of Gaia gear, that's quite nice for Balthier. And then change the bolts back to stone because disable is more preferable than immobilize. But you can see by everyone's license points being kind of like, everyone's kind of like under 100, that I've just been kind of cleaning up the license points between parts off screen. Because keep in mind, literally between parts all we did was click on the crystal. Is this one I wonder if this one's the first instance of what I mean, where there's actually multiple doors linked to the same thing. Actually, no, I think I know what this one is. This one is that from the starting point, there's two different optional paths, and both of them have a switch at the end that open the door from the other path, I think. So I think when we interact with this one, the path next to us won't open. The path on the other side will open. Yeah, because that's Gate Ares. So there's a switch Ares that you can find. Whilst this is switch pieces. So now if we go back the way we came and go down the other optional path of the two, that will have gate pieces on the other end that will now be open. Rather annoyingly, the light paths vanish when you're not on that zone, so you might lose your bearings as to what paths you've already been down, which is what you kind of see here for a second. I end up going up this way, which is the wrong way. But following this, but to be fair, it has loot, so it was worth doing, I suppose. The ninja gear, which I think is light armor. Well, I'm pretty sure it's light armor. Go on. There we are. Light armor 9, so that's pretty good. Like I said, if you've been to Lucio Mines Wave 3, or Zone 3 even, you probably have better stuff just because of the loot there. And on your second visit to the crystal, the enemies, the higher you get, also have some amazing loot that they have a chance of dropping as well, so regardless of what path you decide to take, you're likely to start getting better stuff very soon. If you haven't done the Lucy Mines visit free, I mean, you will have an opportunity to get better loot soon. As I continue to proceed the wrong way, just in the chance of loot. Yeah, this is the switch for the alternate path, if you decide to take that instead. Yeah, because he's the Ares Gate Stone. So now both paths are available to you. Both of them, I believe, lead to the same spot, so don't like stress too much about which path to take, because they will both ultimately take you to where you need to be. Also, whilst we're heading back, now is a good time to mention, we've got the bubble ring on Bash, right? His health is now over 5,000, which means doubled up, it's hitting 9,999 visually. That does not mean the cap is 9,999. Bash's health is actually 10,024. It's just the visual indicator will only go as far to show 9999. So don't panic if you end up getting a lot of health and thinking that the bubble belt is becoming less useful. It isn't. It's always doubling your health no matter how close to the visual limit it is. But as you can see, regardless of which path you decide to take, because I even take the long path to check myself, both of them lead you to the same spot, because going back up here, there's the other side of the gate to where that waystone was. This leading us from Waystone 3 to 2, so all we need to now find is Waystone 1, and we are done with our first visit to the crystal, technically. I say technically because we still got to get out afterwards. But as you can see, now we're much deeper, it's gotten far brighter. The great crystal yearns for our presence, rather hauntingly at that.
I've never seen this much mist. Are you alright?
I'm fine, thank you.
Is that nethicite?
I wonder.
With that much nethicite in one's grasp.
You could destroy all of Evilise, if you wished it.
Maybe not say something so dangerous so casually, friend, but yeah, the nethicite gold mine right in front of us. That if a tiny shard was enough to annihilate an entire fleet, the one the size of a mountain would likely decimate the planet. Worryingly. But there's a safe crystal there, which you want to take, because although there isn't any boss fights in the crystal, once we go through here, we will actually be going beneath the crystal into the last area of Guro Vegan. And there is a boss fight waiting for us here. An Esper, to be in fact. Our fourth one if you're following along, or third one if you're only doing the main plot. If you haven't been to the Zertnan Caverns, this will be your third one. And this guy is pretty cool in design. It's a giant floating horse, essentially. With a giant cape as well. Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. The main way this boss fight works is that it uses non-elemental magic for the most part. It will start the fight using shock, but once it's lost enough health, it will instead alternate to flare. Shock is non-elemental tier 3 damage, so the same as your Firiger, Blizzaga, Thunderger. Flare is tier 4. And it's non-elemental, but it is single target. Both shock and flare are single target, so you can relax a little bit, because if it uses it onto someone who's most resistant to base magic anyway, it won't hurt that bad. But as you saw there, it did take a good 1,000 off Balthier as soon as it connected. And it is soon to... well, it can use Mana Spring as well, which is a bit annoying, because both shock and flare spend a lot of MP, so it can just give its MP back to itself. But as you saw there, flare did nearly 3,000. Well, it did just over 3,000, I think. When it's nearly dead, it will boost its stats with Enrage and start using chain magic so it can use multiple spells, but you should hopefully kill it before it can get any real use out of it to earn your Esper and your reward for your troubles. To be fair, it is a pretty cool Esper, so I do kind of look forward to that fight. I just wanted to kind of keep the suspense for it a little bit. There we get our victory animation. And if there's another Esper which name is just unfortunate for me to try and remember. Like, some of them I can remember every time, like Belias, but I'm not going to remember Shemhazai, the Whisperer. Or Shemhazazi. Or, I'm assuming it's Shemhazai, but I could be dead wrong. So of course, just like every other Esper, check to see what it links to decide what character to give it to. So you see me run through everyone to see what it could potentially link to. Balthier, nothing he hasn't already got. Barsh, nothing there. And ooh, what does that link to? Potion Law, not that helpful. So Ash, Cleanse and Asuna. Or, well, I get it anyway, more so for just Cleanse and Asuna. I don't care about the hand bombs. But Asuna and Cleanse can both be pretty helpful. Cleanse more so. Cleanse, when we eventually pick up that spell, gets rid of disease. So you have a way of getting rid of disease that doesn't require wasting a serum, which you should have started to pick up from normal enemies. You can't buy serums, but you can now pick them up. So you're no longer wasting full remedies. You can use a serum instead to get rid of disease. But down here is the Empyrean Waystone, and the last thing you need to check before the plot starts getting weird. So only when you're ready, change to Ash and interact with the stone.
Everyone.
Fear not, Princess of Dalmasca. We, O Curia, have chosen you, and you alone. Ashalia Benarg and Dalmasca, we see your heart desires power, and power most holy shall we grant. Seek you the Suncrist, slumbering star. In tower on distant shore it dreams. The mother of all Nethicite, the source of its unending power. The Dynast King, his fallow shards coarse trinkets cut from Suncrist's light.
Such power exists?
In times that are long passed away, we thought to save this Ivalice, and chose Wraithwall, the Dynast King. He took the sword and cut the Christ. 3 shards he took from its gilt grasp, and so became the Dynast King. His words and deeds run through your veins.
That's why I was given it, the Sword of Kings.
The treaty held with kings of old is but a memory, cold and still. With you, we now shall treat anew, to cut a run for history's flow. Now take this sword, this treaty blade, O Curian seal, mark of your worth. Cut deep the Christ, and seize your shards. Wield Dynast King's power. Destroy Vanar.
But Vanar? Vanar's an Icurian, a being like you.
Vanar is a heretic! The Nethicite is ours to give to chosen bearer, or to none. The heretic trespassed. and set the rose of knowledge in man's hand. With imitations they profane. It is anathema to us. We give you now the stone and task. Administer judgment. Destroy them all.
Judgment? Destroy them all? The Empire?
The hues ever skew, histories weave. With haste, they move through too short lives. Driven to err by base desires, toward waste, and wasting, on they run. Undying, we Ocuria light the path for wayward sons of man. Oft did we pass judgment on them, so that Ivalice might endure. Eternal, we are history's stewards, to set the course and keep it true. The chosen is our hand, our fist, to let live some and crush the rest. Princess, you have been chosen. Take revenge against those who stole your kingdom. Fulfill your role as savior. Attain to your birthright.
Ash! What's with these Acuria? What gives them the right to tell you what to do?
Will you take revenge, as they ask? Huh?
We could not see them, but we heard the Ocuria speak. They may be gods, but we are the arbiters of our destiny. Your Highness, I'm against this. The Empire must pay, but destruction?
Does anyone know what happened to Dr. Sid? Wasn't he saying he'd be here?
He should have arrived by now.
And I should have realized by now. He's not coming. He laid out the bait, and we bit. Remember what he said? He wanted Ash to get the stone. He wanted that all along. That's why he flaunted his nethicite, and reeled us in with his stories about Vegan, all to bring Ash to the Ocuria.
But wait, if we got a hold of the nethicite, wouldn't that be bad for the Empire?
Maybe he wants to see what happens when foes with nethicite collide. That'd be just like Dr. Sid.
I will search out the Sun Crest.
History is built by our hands. That's his favorite line. He'd never stand by and watch the Ocuria's stones shape things. So, he was talking to Vanar all along. He wasn't mad at all then, was he?
Restore Dalmasca's sovereignty and make our amends with Lady Ash. It's the only way to avert war.
It is a war of necessity. Your Lady Ash herself is bent on it. She desires it above all else. She will not rest until her revenge is full wrought.
I fear you misread her intent. She would sooner shun war than embrace it.
You are young, Larsa.
And you presume beyond your ken.
Then let us look closer. Judge Gabranth. I would have you seek after the Lady Ash and judge whether she makes overtures of peace or war. Yours shall be the eyes of the Empire.
And should I espy war, I am to put her to the sword. Is that your wish, Excellency?
It will not come to that, I am sure. I have faith in her, faith in you both. On you, Gabranth. Shall I wager all our fortunes?
As you will.
That so sweet a child could be your brother is hard to believe.
Larsa is as he should be.
What's that, Vanna? Ah, taken the bait already, have they? Splendid. The Ocuria have given the princess her treaty blade.
The gods have chosen their scribe to write history as they deem fit. Yes, and she with fresh nethicite to aid her.
Bah! To hell with the Ocuria and their stones. What good? A power that cannot be harnessed. Baubles best suited for study, no more.
We conquered 2 kingdoms that you might study these baubles.
Oh, I am grateful for the sacrifice. Without it, manufactured nethicite would have eluded us. An unrivaled weapon, I warrant you. Tell me, Vanna, have I not been an apt pupil?
My counsel did but guide your able hand. Through power of man, the stones did you perfect. Yes. So much accomplished in 6 fleeting years. Man's fervor o'er all obstacles prevailing.
Our lives are much too short. You undying might waste long centuries away, but we, I fear, cannot.
Just so. Had we more time, we might have availed ourselves of more prudent measures.
Your greatest work still lies before you. Not lightly will the Ocuria allow you to wrest the reins of history from their grasp, back into the hands of men.
Indeed. What claim does Geren have on history's reins, seated on throne immortal, rent from time? For your ascendant's vein I offer prayer. May you attain all that which is your due.
Attain it I shall. For too long have my deeds gone unrewarded.
In tower on distant shore dreams the sun Christ. Do these words mean aught to you?
Didn't Redis say he was going to follow some other course? Maybe he found out something that can help.
I'd rather stay out of that Sky Pirate's debt, thank you.
What's wrong with Redis? I mean, if you can't trust your own kind, who can you trust?
You're an expert on pirating now, are you?
The Ocuria have been controlling history's weave for many eons, but one in particular betrayed the rest of the Ocuria in order to put history's control into the hands of man, that being Vanar, the one that has been guiding the main villains and the Empire at large throughout the entirety of this. Yes, we are now dealing with godhood, which is pretty standard for a Final Fantasy game to eventually lean into godhood, but I found it pretty fascinating the way they handled it this time around, in my personal opinion. It's very fascinating, but now we know what we need to do. We need to get new nethicite from the Sun Crystal, or the Sun Crest. To do that, we need to find where it is first of all, which is easier said than done, as we turn in some hunts and get a few extra bits and pieces for our efforts. But that I always found fascinating, because the villains, Vanar's main objective isn't villainous. It's just who he is working for and who he gave his power to that makes him a threat. Whilst the rest of the Ocuria are the actual villains, pretending to be the good guys, essentially. They're pretending to be on our side, saying, no, you need to correct the world by making it so we're back in control of history. Putting Ash in a very difficult point to make, that we won't really have an answer to until we find the crystal and our hand will be forced upon. But we need to even find it first, to which this cutscene will offer.
Glossair engines are as good to us as sky to a fish. Leave what boats have foundered. I want souls saved, not driftwood. Our armada ran afoul of bad water near the Ridorana Cataract. All engines stopped a sudden. Becalmed. Trouble with a mist thick as death, it seems. Those seas are yacht. I expected airship trouble, not a fleet foundering midst the waves. Tell me of what happened in Girovegon. From the lay of your eyes, I measure all did not go well. Cid. Was he false, as I feared?
Yes. But we may have caught a glimpse of his true intent. We may now know what it is that Cid searches for.
So the day-affected Nithosite was only a fragment? And these Ocuria I know not and care to know even less.
If we strike the Suncrest with the Sword of Kings, no new stone may be born. We say the Suncrest is the source of all Nethosite's power. If we might break it, the Dusk Shard would be as a thing lifeless. As for the manufactured Nethosite, who can say?
There is another way. We used the Treaty Blade to cut a new stone from the Crest. Use that to fight the Dusk Shard and the manufactured stones.
Would you like to know the best use of Nethosite? Will or nil, I'll tell you. You pick it up and throw it away.
Either way, we have to find the Suncrest first, right? Don't we? Across the sea, and a tower on a distant shore. Redis?
Familiar words, Vaughn. I saw something of the sort written in some documents I chanced upon during my visit to Draklor. The Naldoan Sea, the Ridorana Cataract, and the Pharos Lighthouse. I sent my fleet to fish out the truth behind these words, and caught trouble.
Then proof is ours. This lighthouse on the Naldoan Sea is the tower on the distant shore. The strong mist that becalmed your ships is a grimmer yet clearer sign than any we might hope for. The Suncrest is there.
All well and good, but how do we get there? Those seas are in yacht, as I recall.
Try putting this one in your ship. 'Tis a skystone made to resist yacht.
More spoils from the Draklor labs, is it? Why not use it yourself?
That's just the thing. My ship's a Bergerben model, it will not work. But, should it fit the Strahl, she'll fly in yacht. Lady Ash, I would accompany your highness, if you do not object.
I am in your care. But tell me one thing. Why do so much for us?
The Nabudis Deadlands.
Nabudis was your home?
Nay, but a memory forever burned in my heart.
Sounds like we know where our Suncrest is located. The Pharaoh's Lighthouse. Or, as I've more preferred to not call it as, the Pharaoh's Tower. The Pharaoh's Tower is the next plot-based location we will be visiting, but we are not visiting the Pharaoh's Tower anytime soon. Because now Redis has joined us as a guest, and this is the very, very last time anyone will join you as a guest. And as this Moogle has now told us, our airship, the Strahl, is now available for us to fly anywhere across the planet. So we now have both the Strahl and the Quicksilver crystals to get around. And a guest character, so we now have a full party of 4. For the very last time we're going to have a full party of 4. Let's get every side quest we can get done now. Which is what we'll be starting next time. So, until then, you guys take care now.